I'd like to introduce you all to a friend and colleague of mine at the OU, Rabbi Moshe Schwed, who is the director of All Daf and All Parsha. All Daf has been downloaded nearly 50,000 times since its publication, and it is utilized nearly every day by many of those people, myself included, and I know many of you as well. For those of you who are beneficiaries of that app, a special thank you goes to Rabbi Schwed and his team of designers and developers, and all of the Rabbanim who share their Torah on that app, who have worked very diligently over the past couple of years to bring this wellspring of Daf Yomi resources to life. As well, Rabbi Schwed is joined tonight by Rav Asher Tesser, who's here, who's been involved in a lot of the logistics, and will probably put you on Facebook or Instagram by the end of the night. So thank you very much for all of your help. I would be remiss if at this point I didn't add my appreciation to the leadership of the Orthodox Union, Mr. Moshe Bain, the president of the OU, and the executive vice presidents, Rabbi Moshe Hauer and Rabbi Dr. Josh Joseph, and my partner in the Department of Community Projects and Partnerships, Simon Taylor. It's a pleasure and honor to work with each of you and all of you in our effort to grow the Jewish community. I'd like to invite Rabbi Schwed to share a few remarks and share a brief video. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi Karesh, for that wonderful introduction. And the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, Yafet Talmud Torah Derech Eretz. I think Rabbi Karesh epitomizes the Talmud Torah, Daf Yomi Maggid Shiur. From what I hear, the largest in Chicago. I didn't count, so don't hold me to that. And the Derech Eretz, his beautiful midos, someone who's a pleasure to work with, wears many hats. As he mentioned, he is the director of community projects at the OU. He's a well-known Moel. And we wish him continued success and atzlacha, and thank him so very much for bringing everybody together here in Chicago for this event. So I'd like to welcome everybody, for those here in Chicago, on behalf of the OU and those watching across the world, globally, to the All Daf Siyum on Masechtas Yoma. A Siyum is a time to reflect and think back to everything we've done. And obviously to have a Karas HaTov and thank Hashem and all those that helped us come this far. And in fact, this week's Parsha is one of the places where the Torah teaches us this incredible lesson, how powerful the midah of a Karas HaTov is. Moshe Rabbeinu was commanded by Hashem, go take revenge from the Midyanim, what they've just done to you. And immediately Moshe Rabbeinu goes ahead and he says, he says, go, let's get an army and go fight the Midyanim. And the Medrash asks, Moshe Rabbeinu was just told by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you yourself go fight the Midyanim. He didn't get any command for putting together an army to go fight. How do you go ahead and seemingly disobey the order of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? And the Medrash says, since Moshe Rabbeinu grew up in Midyan, he had a Karas HaTov. He couldn't himself go ahead and fight. He said, I have to send other people to go take revenge from the Midyanim. And Reb Chaim Shmulevitz asks, it seems to be a nice cheshbon, a nice svara, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him he should go fight himself. How could he go ahead and decide on his own that he wants to send an army to go fight this war? And he says, you see the power of the midah of a Karas HaTov. Moshe Rabbeinu used it as a midah, like a midah Shatar in the Drashas Bahen. He went ahead himself and he, so to speak, darshan the words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and said, even though I was told to fight, it can't be I was told to go do it myself. HaKaras HaTov is mechayiv that I have to go send others to go fight this milchama. So on behalf of all you leadership, Rabbi Moshe Hauer, Rabbi Dr. Josh Joseph, Mr. Moshe Bain, we'd like to be Makir Tov first to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us this unique opportunity to provide the world with this unbelievable tool, All Daf, and people all over the world, we get messages, we know are using it, and we're very thankful for that. We have to thank the hosts, Mr. Mark and Rookie Halpert, for opening up their backyard and having their house available in case of inclement weather. But Baruch Hashem, we're here, it's dry, so again, we thank Hashem for that. The All Daf app has been dedicated in the memory of a very special person who passed away recently from Casablanca, Morocco, Mr. Meir Waknin, who was a special, exemplary person, pillar of the community, and someone who respected and honored Talmidei Chachamim and Rabbanim. His memory should be a blessing. The Siyum has been dedicated by the Goldberg family in memory of Elliot Goldberg. And just to say a few words about Elliot, he's actually his first yahrzeit was this past Tuesday. He lived for 47 years with a genetic disease. And the average lifespan for a person with this disease is 5. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Goldberg, kept him alive, and he was one of the oldest living people with this disease. He went to the hospital over 250 times in his life, but continued to persevere. Always looking at the bright side and trying to stay positive, and it's certainly a lesson for all of us, especially the ones who are learning Daf Yomi, and day after day after day, they have to persevere in order to be able to keep up. So we thank the Goldberg family for that, and may his memory be a blessing as well. Just one short Dvar Torah, I believe it's Yerushalmi actually, in Masechtas Yoma, that says, famous Chazal, any generation that doesn't have the Beis HaMikdash built in its lifetime, it's as if it was destroyed. And the question is, so what should we do about it? How can we build the Beis HaMikdash? So I saw brought down a beautiful Medrash, and the Medrash says, it's a Medrash in Yalkut Shemoni and Shiur that says, Zeh doidi v'zeh reyu, Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Kol mi shemevatel tzracha v'yoshev ha'osek b'Torah, anybody who puts aside his needs and anything that's going through his mind and that's bothering him, and he sits and learns Torah, Zeh doidi v'zeh reyu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, that's my friend, that's someone that I'm close to. Not only that, Ela ki'ilu bana Beis HaMikdash, it's as if he built a Beis HaMikdash. That means anybody sitting here, sitting across the world, that puts in time every single day and is mavatel their tzrachim and sits and learns Torah is building the Beis HaMikdash. So we are actively trying to build the Beis HaMikdash, and therefore, hopefully you'll be set on us that we're not destroying the Beis HaMikdash. We should all be zeichet to have the binyan Beis HaMikdash very quickly. I have to thank, obviously, the All Daf team that helped put this event together. Rabbi David Pardo, Asher Tesser, who came and is here and helping out, and all the people on the tech team that do a tremendous job keeping the platform consistent day after day after day. It's certainly not easy, and it's a constant 24-hour-a-day job, almost 7 days a week when it's not Shabbos, Matzah Shabbos. It's a constant effort to keep it going. I just want to read a couple of emails that we got from people around the world who show their appreciation to everything that the OU does and All Daf does. We just got an email today from somebody in Belgium who listens to the Yiddish Shiur on All Daf by Rabbi Reuben, and he writes, Dear All Daf and Rabbi Reuben, he just finished Masechtas Yoma and he really wanted to thank you for the most amazing shiurim. He says the daily shiurim kept him going and pushing through the dafim. The clarity and geschmack you've added, Rabbi Reuben, to the learning in that 1 hour is tremendous. He says, I can say I wouldn't have managed without you. So thank you, Rabbi Reuben, for that. And this is pretty amazing. We got this from a person. His name is Yerachmiel. I'll leave out his last name. He says he knows a boy who lives in Charleston, South Carolina, whose first name is Binyamin. He says it's a long story, but in short, there's basically not even a minyan in Charleston, South Carolina. That kind of gives you an idea of the type of place it is. He's attending Mora Kollel in the summer and visited him in Philadelphia, where he lives. When I asked him what he's learning, he says, I learned Daf Yomi with All Daf. We learned the Daf together, and it was amazing, out of this world. So, Baruch Hashem, we're happy to hear and see that people are using this all around the world. And everybody that participates and learns the Daf and is able to take the opportunity to use this program is tremendous. We have a Karsha Tov to all of them. We couldn't do it without the users. And again, we thank the sponsors, both of the app and the Siyum, for dedicating and helping out, giving us the opportunity to keep this going on a day-to-day basis.
Mazel Tov to all the Messiahim, to all who are celebrating the Siyum of Maseches Yoma. Chazal teach us Gedola Legima, the opportunity to sit and to eat and drink together, to celebrate together, brings people together. We all know that Daf Yomi is an incredible enterprise of Limud HaTorah. but it's also an outstanding expression of a community of Limud HaTorah, of people coming together and learning together and drawing from the Koach HaTorah as well as from the Koach HaTzibur, the power of the Torah itself and the power of being part of a community of learners. The theme on Maseches Yoma is the first in a series over the coming many months of opportunities for us to come together to celebrate such siyumim, to strengthen the bond of community that's so essential and so beautiful in the Daf HaYomi. We at the Orthodox Union feel a tremendous zechus, tremendous privilege to be part of this. That through All Daf, we have helped so many to be able to participate and to be part of this community. We wish you continued Mazel Tov, and we hope to celebrate together as we conquer and assimilate into ourselves more and more of the Torah as we learn together and grow together. L'agdil Torah u'l'adira.
Verification, analysis, enhancement for court evidence, which is often needing to be boosted in terms of volume or fixed in terms of getting clarified so that we can then use it in court.
So just tell us a little bit about your background and what you do and how you got to All Daf and how you use it today.
All Daf is this amazing program that has a whole collection of classes on the Mora. And every day it's updated, it's beautifully done. I was really impressed with it. I started using it on January 5th of 2020 after attending at UCLA the celebration. And I was really inspired. My family was inspired. I went there with my wife and my son. I started learning. I wanted to do it online. I figured that was the best way for me personally to learn. I saw the All Daf in the announcements as an option. And so I started listening to different classes, trying out different teachers, and there was such a nice variety. Each one has its own strong points. And I started listening to a bunch of them actually and learning the Daf every day. And as I listened more and more, I realized, okay, this one has a little bit of a problem here. And I knew because of my profession, I could clean it up. I was hearing scratching from clothing or wind noise or crackling
Or
sound.
bang against the speaker, the microphone. They have it on the table or something and they bang the speaker down.
Exactly, and it bang, and it's really loud, and then that's hard on people's ears. I wanted to make it as easy to use as possible for this recordings. Rabbi Rosner, Rabbi Elephant, Rabbi Stefanski, they all have fantastic classes, and I love taking them. So I wanted to help. I just figured, look, it's a free service you guys are providing, an amazing service from your organization, the OU, and I thought, I can help. This is something I can do, and I bet no one else can do this.
Seven Masechtas in 8 months. Hi, this is Moshe Schwed, director of All Daf, the Daf Yomi app from the OU. Beginning July 9th, Daf Yomi is starting a stretch of 7 familiar Masechtas over 8 months. Sukkah, Beya, Rosh Hashanah, Tainus, Megillah, Moed Katan, and Chagiga. Join us at All Daf for this amazing learning opportunity. Regardless of whether you're a Daf Yomi learner or not, enjoy special features and weekly giveaways. And most of all, enjoy the satisfaction of completing these 7 precious Masechtas. Sign up today.
Rabbi Efraim Twerski, the Mora Asra of Khal Chasidim, is no stranger to us at Beis Medrash Mikor HaChaim. Every year we're zochet to hear Divrei Torah from Rabbi Twerski a number of times, and it's never enough. We're privileged to have Rabbi Twerski with us tonight to share Divrei Torah, after which we'll finish Maseches Yoma. I'd like to personally thank Rabbi for making time to be here tonight. I know things are very busy, and we're looking forward to learning from you. Tenu Kavod LaTorah, Rabbi Twerski.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you very much, Rabbi Karesh. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Mark Halpert, for opening your backyard for this wonderful siyum. You should be zeicha to host much Torah and Simcha in your home for many, many years to come. Especially Yasher Koyach to All Daf, to Reb Moshe. Very inspiring words and very inspiring video. You should be zeicha for many, many years to come to continue to be marbitz Torah to the entire world. Mazel tov to all the Messiahim. May you all be zeicha. Those who are here, and those who are listening and watching online, you should all be zeicha to be Messiahim. Many more Masechtes, be Messiahim Shas many times. Metoich, gesund and archavas hadas. We're on the threshold of Rosh Chodesh Av. We're about to step into the 9 days, which we hope that Mikor will be nishapach, will be transformed, l'sosain or l'simcha. But as it is right now, we're still mourning the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. And it's so interesting how Hashgach Yoma has brought that the Siyum Yoma, which the entire Masechta talks about the Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, has fallen right now, Erev Rosh Chodesh Av. I was trying to figure out before I came, I know the Mefarshim talk about this, why is the Masechta called Yomi? Every other Masechta, it seems very obvious why the Masechta is called by its name. The word Yomi doesn't even appear in the Masechta. So why is the Masechta called Yomi? And I was thinking that we know that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed as a result of sinas chinam, baseless hatred. And we just take this as a given is because of sinas chinam, and we know that the only way that we're going to get the Beis HaMikdash rebuilt is if we come together with ahavas chinam, with the baseless love. Just because we're all Yiddische Kinder. But why is it, what is the connection between Beis HaMikdash and Sinas Chinam? Why is it that the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed? What is the midah keneged midah? What's the measure for measure? Because there's Sinas Chinam, that's why there's a destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. There's a Gemara in Masechtas Bava Basra, I believe it's Daf Gimel Amud Beis, Dal Amud Aleph. It talks about Hurdis. It says that Hurdis murdered all of the Chachmei Yisrael. And he left one Chacham, Bava Ben Buta, he left him alive. And Hurdis went to Bava Ben Buta and asked him, what do I do? What do I do to rectify what I've done, the fact that I've killed all the Chachmei Yisrael? And Bava Ben Buta told him, you extinguished the light of the world, as the Pasuk says, Ki ner mitzvah v'Torah or. Torah is the light of the world. Go and rebuild the light of the world. The Beis HaMikdash is called the light of the world. So since the Beis HaMikdash has been destroyed, the light of the world has been extinguished, we dwell in darkness. Cheshkas Hagolus, the darkness of exile. The night, the long night of Golus. And we all await the dawn of the Geula. Now, what is the definition of Choshech? What is the definition of darkness? I believe there's a pasuk in Parsha's Boy that talks about Makas Choshech, the plague of darkness that took place in Mitzrayim, where the pasuk describes what is Choshech. And the pasuk tells us Choshech means V'lo yirou ish es achiv. Choshech means when one cannot see their brother. That is the definition of Choshech. When we can't see the tsar of a brother, when we can't see the simcha of a brother. When the Gemara Masechtas Brachos wants to give us a sign, how do you know when is morning? How do you know when it is day? So you can read the Kriya Shema. The Gemara says, Mishiyiras Chaveroi. If you can see your Chaver, that means it's day. That means that it's light. So darkness is defined by V'lo yira'u ish es achiv. Darkness is defined when you can't see your brother, and light is defined when you can see your Chaver. So perhaps, since we brought darkness upon ourselves, since there was sinas chinam, lo yira'u ish es achiv, we refuse to see our brother. As a result, the Oiroi Shel Olam was extinguished. The light of the world, the Beis HaMikdash, was taken away from us. Yom Kippur is a day that, as the Python says, we say this on the Tefillah on Yom Kippur, Yom Simas Ahava V'Reus. It's a day when Khal Yisrael comes together. Yom Aziva Sina V'Tachrus. It's a day that we desert all of our hatred, all of our animosity. It's a day that we come together with a tremendous love. We all put away with Lifnei Hashem Titaru, the Averesh Merodam Al-Chaveira. We all make sure to take care of that before Yom Kippur enters. So we enter the Yom Kippur with a tremendous love for each other. Yom Kippur is the ultimate Yoma. It's a day that represents what is. It's Yom. It's not Laila. It's Oyer. It's not Choshech. It's Yom. And this is why when Rabbi Shua ben Levi, the Gemara tells us, Rabbi Shua ben Levi met Mashiach. He asked Mashiach, Mosai Ka'asimar, when are you going to come? And Mashiach answered, Hayoim and Bekoilai Tishmau. Today, if you listen to my voice. I'm sorry, Mashiach answered Hayoim. Mashiach answered Hayoim, today. Rabbi Shua ben Levi waited all day, Mashiach didn't arrive, so Rabbi Shua ben Levi said to Eliyahu Navi, Mashiach is lying. And Eliyahu Navi said, no, he meant Hayoim and Bekoilai Tishmau. So, why was Mashiach fooling around with Rabbi Shua ben Levi? Why did Mashiach? It has nothing to do with Hayyim. It has to do with Imbekayla Tishmo. He should have answered Imbekayla Tishmo. Why did he answer Hayyim? The answer is that because what is necessary for Mashiach to come is for us to bring back Hayyim. It's for us to bring back Yoma. To bring back the day, the light of Mashiach Chaveroi. That we should see each other, care about each other, be mitzvah with each other, be mesameach with each other. Daf Hayomi, Daf Hayomi. It's bringing the two oars together. It's the oar of Torah. Kiner mitzvah of Torah oar together with the oar of Achdus, the oar of Mashiach Chaveroi. It's known that Rameir Shapiro said when he instituted the Daf Yomi that this was an opportunity for Yidden all around the world to come together and to be able to discuss the same daf together. Daf HaYomi, it's the daf that brings back the Yom, will bring back the daylight of Mashiach. And I believe that this is the reason why the Chodesh is called, the Chodesh that we're about to embark upon is Chodesh Av. Av means the Father. Chodesh Av, what that translates into is that we're all brothers. If the Rabbeinu Shleilam is our father, that means that we're all brothers. That's the message of Chodesh Av. That's why the Pasuk says in Parsha Rei, you're all children to Hashem, your God. Don't break up into different groups. You're all children of one Rabbeinu Shleilam. We're all brothers. Just want to end with a anecdote. A few years ago, we know that our going Rabbi Chaim lost his Rebbetzin, Alei Shalom. He was very tzibrochen. He was very sad. So Yaskonim brought, there's a Badchen in New York, a very famous Badchen, a comedian. His name is Yankov Miller. So they brought him to be Mesameach Rabbi Chaim. There was a clip that went viral. Everybody was able to see it. And Yankov Miller said to Rabbi Chaim, he told him that there was a Yid that came over from Europe in the 1920s. And this Yid was committed to holding on to his Yiddishkeit despite all the difficulties in America at the time. And he opened a little store in whichever town he lived in. The store took off very well, and eventually he built another store in a neighboring town, and another store. And this ended up building into a huge department store, a huge chain of department stores all over America. This person became very wealthy, and as a result of being in America in those years, his children didn't remain from. One day this Yid started feeling sick. He went to the doctor. The doctor called in all the children. He said, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Your father has no more than 6 months to live. The children made a quick calculation. 6 months is holiday weekend, holiday season. It's the hottest season for the department stores. If they're going to have to sit Shiva, that means they're going to have to close down the stores. There's no way in the world they could do that. So they decided that instead of sitting Shiva after their father dies, they're going to sit Shiva now. So Rabbi Yankov said to Rabbi Chaim, the Yid came to ask me a shayla. I want to ask the Godel Ador, what do you think? This Yid came to ask if he should go to be Menachem Ovel his children. You can see Rabbi Chaim Mamash laughing. He had tremendous honor from the shayla. Rabbi Sai, I was thinking that maybe this is why this month is called Menachem Av. On Tisha B'Av, we're all going to sit down on the ground. We're going to sit Shiva. And we're going to say, Yisayimim Ayinu V'yein Av. We're orphans, we have no father. And the Rabbeinu Shleilam is going to come visit us. He's going to say, Kinderach, ich bin du. I'm here. Was dreist up. I'm alive and well. Perhaps it's more convenient to say, he's not our father, because if he's our father, that means that you're my brother. The Rabbeinu Shleilam wants us to realize that he's our father, which means we're all brothers and sisters. And when we realize that we're all brothers and sisters, that will be the Yomi. That will be the day that becomes day. It will bring back the Oida Shalaylam. May we all be Zeicha through the Koyach HaTorah of the Daf HaYomi, through Masechtas Yomi. May we all be Zeicha to come together as brothers, to realize Menachem Av, that our Father is alive and well. And we're all brothers and sisters. And that's chus. We all be zeicha to the Oirei Shal Mashiach Tzidkeinu B'Meheira B'Yameinu Amen.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Twerski, for your divrei chizuk. We're about to learn the final blot, really the final amud of the Masechta, but I have to say 4 quick, heartfelt thank yous, and then we'll jump right into the daf. First of all, I'd like to publicly thank my wife, Rachel, for her unending and unwavering support to enable my teaching of Daf Yomi. Rachel! The back table. The back table. All day, every day. It is a remarkable commitment that she embraced with grace and beneimus, and while tremendously insufficient, I will at the very least say that I am incredibly grateful. May we continue to be blessed to raise our children b'darchei HaTorah, and on that note, I totally walked out during bedtime tonight, so really sorry about that, but thank you for that as well. I'd like to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu because this opportunity has been one of a lifetime. I am tremendously grateful for this opportunity. Few things in life are as challenging, as meaningful, or as rewarding as this journey to learn more and more about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Number 3, to the Rabbanim of our Shul, Rabbi Robinson and Rabbi Schechter, you are trailblazers in motivating people to learn and grow. It falls off of your lips in almost every drasha, and the people around you are a testimony to your very hard work in that regard. And lastly, to our chabura, to the chevra of guys that come together every night and every week, what a gift. What an honor to spend time together. I look forward to Shiur every single day with each of you and with all of you, and especially on Shabbos, a special Daf Yomi. Great to have everyone in person. So we're going to get started now with the Daf.
We expected more about the back table.
One shout out sufficient. All right, for the final blot, we're starting at the very bottom of Daf Pei Zayin Amud Beis, and in fact it's going to be all about Ne'ilah. All about Ne'ilas Shar, as this is the Ne'ilas Shar of the Masechta. Let's see where we're starting. We're starting 5 lines from the bottom. Omar Rav. Rav says, Tfilas Ne'ilah poteres es shel arvis. The halacha is that if a person says Ne'ilah, they say that Shmon Esrei, so then the halacha is that they don't have to say Shmon Esrei for Mariv that night. To be clear, this doesn't, obviously it doesn't remove the need to say Kriya Shema, which is a separate chiyuv, but the need to say Shmon Esrei is removed because you already said Ne'ilah, such as Shitas Rav. Let's dig in a little bit. Rav L'taime, this matches perfectly with Rav's shita that we learned yesterday. What did Rav say about Ne'ilah? D'amar tzlosa yiserahi, it's a separate Shmona Esrei, whereas Shmuel argued and said, no, it's not a separate Shmona Esrei, it's just a collection of tefillos. But Rav says it's a separate Shmona Esrei, so it makes perfect sense. If it's a separate Shmona Esrei, you already daven mincha, you're after plaga mincha, and you said a Shmona Esrei, you should be yotzei for Marv already. Makes perfect sense. So says the Gemara, that's a bit of a problem because it leaves an implication. But before we get to that, the Gemara says that it's Yiserahi, and V'kevan D'tzali Le, since he already said one Shmona Esrei, Sulo Tzarech, he doesn't need to. But what's implied from here is that if you didn't say Ne'ilah, if you didn't say that Shmona Esrei, you would be obligated to say Mariv. But that doesn't fit with another shita of Rav. Umyama Rav Hachi, does Rav actually say this? Ve'amar Rav halacha kedivrei ha'omer tfilas arvis rishus, all the way back to brachos. Rav was of the opinion that tfilas arvis is rishus, but Rav, you left the implication that if you don't say Ne'ilah that you're chayiv to say Mariv. Chayiv and Mariv, that doesn't work with Rav. That's not Rav's shita. Says the Gemara, Inachanami, you're right, it doesn't work with Rav's shita, and Rav was not speaking from his shita. He was speaking l'divrei ha'omer chova ka'amar. He was speaking for his Baal Plugta to say, according to my Baal Plugta, who says that really it's going to be a chova, then this makes perfect sense. Says the Gemara, hold on one second. None of this makes any sense. How can there be a shita that says you don't have to daven Mariv after Yom Kippur? Meisvei, the Brisa writes. Or Yom HaKippurim, as we go into Yom Kippur, Mispalel Sheva Misvade, we say a Shmon Esrei with 7 brachos and we say Vidui. Shachris Sheva Misvade. Shachris another Shmon Esrei of 7 brachos and Vidui. Musaf Sheva Misvade. V'Ne'ilah Mispalel Sheva Misvade. At the end of the day, we're getting there in Ne'ilah Shar. We also say Shmon Esrei with 7 brachos and we say Vidui. Arvis, says the Gemara, Arvis is after Ne'ilah. Motzei, we're talking about Motzei Yom Kippur. Arvis as well. Mispalel Sheva Me'ein Shmon Esrei. Here we say, as Rashi highlights the Havinenu, famously structured as the first 3 brachos of Shmona Esrei, the last 3 brachos of Shmona Esrei, and then one paragraph in the middle that has components of each of the middle brachos, ending with Baruch Atah Hashem Shomei Tefillah. So that's the shita of the Tanakama. And Rabbi Chanin on the bottom line of Pei Zayin Amud Beis, Rabbi Chanin ben Gamliel, he says Mishum Avosav, no, Mispal Shmona Esrei Shlemos. You say a full 18 brachos. Why? Mipnei Shetzarech Lomar Havdalah B'chonin Adas. We can't do the shortened version of Shmona Esrei Havinenu because we need to say Atachonein, and you can't do that if you haven't said a separate bracha of Atachon Antanu. So this is a stira no matter what you say. How can Rav be of the opinion that Ne'ilah patters you from Mariv if this brisa says black on and white that even if you say Ne'ilah, you have to say Shemona Esrei for Marav. One way or the other, Havinenu or full, no matter what, it's still a Shemona Esrei. Says the Gemara, you're right. Great question. And the Gemara concludes, Tanoihi. In fact, it's a machlokes Tanoim. We're going to learn this brisa, and this brisa says nothing about Ne'ilah. And after we learn this brisa, which seemingly does not talk about our topic, thank God we have Rashi, he'll give us a glimpse into what this brisa actually means. The Tanya, Peiches Amud Aleph, 2 lines down, the brisa writes, Kol Chai Ve'Tfilos, anyone who has an obligation to go to the mikvah, Tovlin Kedarkan B'Yom HaKippurim. They go to the mikvah even on Yom Kippur. Nida V'Yoledes, a woman who is exiting the Yemei Nida, a woman who is exiting her Yemei Leda, she is they're tovlos kedarkan belela Yom Kippurim. They go to the mikveh even on the night of Yom Kippur. Balkari, if a person has a seminal emission, tovel v'holech adam mincha, and this is where things get confusing. What does that mean? If they have to go to the mincha, they have to go to the mikveh up until mincha. What is he even talking about? So, of course, this has to be within the framework of Takanas Ezra, where we know that there was a limitation from learning and from davening when one was a Balkari. So, continues the brisa with the second shita. Okay, the Balkari is tovel until mincha. Rabbi Yossi Omer kol hayom kulo, and that is the end of the brisa. Very confusing. You just said that we know there's a machlokes Tanaim now about whether or not Ne'ilah paters mariv. Where do we see that in this brisa? So take a look at Rashi. Rashi's 5 lines down, the first of the narrow lines, Dibur Hamaschil, V'holech ad hamincha. And we're going to go through both shitas of the Tanakama and of Rav Yossi in this Rashi. Rashi writes, Im ira lo keri kodem lachein. If a person prior to mincha has a mikra laila, so then the halacha is, tovel, he should go to the mikvah. Why? Because he can't daven without that. Kadesh yuchal lispala tfilas hamincha. Otherwise he can't daven. So if it's prior to the zman of mincha, yet a mikra laila, he has to go to the mikvah even on Yom Kippur because he's obligated to daven mincha. But if the mikra laila occurred after mincha, then the halacha is ein muter litbol. Then he's not allowed to go to the mikvah. Why not? Because he should wait until after Yontif is out. He should wait until it gets dark out, namely till Yontif is over. Then go to the mikvah. Why? What does the Tanakama hold? Disvira lahula rabbanon ditfilas neila balayla. He holds that tfilas neila is at night. Uladidhu, according to them, poteres es shel arvis kiderav. This first shita, the Tanakama, who says that one can only go to the mikvah up until mincha, this reflects the shita of Rav. And the Rashi continues about 12 lines down in the Rashis, according to the one who says you are obligated still to say Mariv, even if you say Ne'ilah. Rabbi Yossi, that's the shita of Rabbi Yossi, the Amar Kol Hayom Muter Litvol, that one is always able to go to the mikvah on the day of Yom Kippur in the case of Mikra Laila. Even if the Mikra Laila was later in the afternoon after he daven, Tovel B'Yom Kedei Lispala Tfilas Ne'ilah. What does that show about his shita of Rabbi Yossi? So says Rashi, Alma Kasavar Tfilas Ne'ilah Ein Zman B'Laila. It's very clear at that point that Ne'ilah has to be said during the day. Uladidei, and according to him, Eina Poteres Es Shel Arvis. So a little esoteric from the Gemara side, but Rashi does help to articulate how this Mishnah reflects the Machlokes Tanoim about whether or not one is obligated to say Mariv if in fact they were to have said Ne'ilah. The Gemara says, hold on one second. These two shitas don't match up with the next brisa. What does the next brisa say? The next brisa says, Uraminhu. We're going to ask from a source in the Tanoim. Hazav ve'hazava, people who have these particular types of discharges, hamitzora, vehamitzoras, lepers, male and female, uvoel nida, someone who violates that isser, v'tamei meis, the halacha is tovlin kedarkan b'yom HaKippurim. Fine, that's really not going to be relevant to our halacha. Nida v'yoledes, tovlos, they go to the mikvah, nida v'yoledes, kedarkan b'leila yom HaKippurim, same thing. Now here's where we're trying to align this brisa with ours, and it doesn't seem to match. Says the Gemara, 6-7 lines down, Peiches Amud Aleph, Balkeri tovel v'holech kol hayom kulo. Previously, the Tanakama said it was only up until mincha. Here, the Tanakama says you can go to the mikvah all day. And Rabbi Yossi Omer mina mincha ulamala ein yachol litbol. The shita is reverse. So that doesn't work. In the previous brisa that you brought to highlight that really Rav is one of two shitas, really it's a machlokes Tanaim. Okay, I understand. But here this doesn't even match up with those shitas. Says the Gemara, Lo Kasha, one brisa is talking about Hadatzali Tfilas Ne'ilah, one is talking about we are already davened Ne'ilah, and the other is speaking about Hadalot Tzali. Fine, so that's how we answer up the steer in the brisas. Asks the Gemara, Idit Tzali, my time maihu de Rabbanan. I don't understand. If you already davened, then why would the Rabbanan say you're allowed to go to the mikvah all the way through the end of the day? Why? I don't understand. You davened already. What's the problem? So it says the Gemara, Kasavre Rabbanan Tefillah Bizmana Mitzvah. They hold of the principle that going to the mikvah on a very fixed time, on the time when one is first obligated to go to the mikvah, so then the din is that they're obligated to go, even though Tashmish Hamita is one of the Chamesh Sinuyim. Fine. They go to the mikvah, but it's Chamesh Sinuyim. There's no Tashmish Hamita. Fine. But they have to go to the mikvah because Tefillah Bizmana is a mitzvah. So that's why the Chachamim would obligate one to go to the mikvah on Yom Kippur, even if they already said Ne'ilah. Says the Gemara, that leaves an implication that's very difficult to understand. Michlal, that implies if the Rabbanan hold that Tefillah Bizmana is a mitzvah, says the Gemara 1/3 of the way down, Michlal, the Rabbi Yossi Savar Lav Mitzvah, that Rabbi Yossi holds that Tefillah Bizmana is not a mitzvah. That doesn't work, because V'hatanya, the Brisa writes, Harei Shahaya Shame Kosev Al Bisaro. Say a person's doodling, they take a pen, and they're a sofer. They write Mamish Yud Ke Vav Ke, they write their name, the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu on their arm. So that's what they did, they wrote it on their flesh. Harei Zeh Lo Yirchat, no showering for you. Lo Yisoch, you can't put on any oils. V'lo Yamo B'makom Atinofes, you can't even stand somewhere that's filthy. You're not allowed to do this. Shem Hashem. You're not allowed to do that. So it says the Gemara, Nizdamna lo tvilas mitzvah. What if a person now has to juxtapose the isser of exposing Hashem's name or erasing Hashem's name against the mitzvah of tefillah bizmana? So there says the Gemara, what should you do? So here the Tanna Kama says, Korech alav gemi v'yored v'tovel. No problem. Wrap a reed around the shame of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and with that reed you're allowed to go into the mikvah. No problem at all. Rabbi Yossi argues and says no. He says, Yored v'tovel kedarko. You are not allowed to go find a reed, because if you don't find a reed, you might miss out on your mitzvah. What does that imply about Rav Yossi? That tefillah bizmana is a mitzvah. So he says you're not allowed to go chase after a gemi, a reed to wrap around the Shem Hashem that's on your arm. Ubilvad shelo yishavshef. You go into the mikvah, but you cannot, of course, rub off Hashem's name. V'kaimalan. It must be that he holds the tefillah bizmana mitzvah pligi. It seems that this machlokes is all about tefillah bizmana mitzvah, and Rav Yossi is on the side of tefillah bizmana is a mitzvah against our implication. Says the Gemara, great question, but there was one thing that was missing from our first Mari Makom. What was missing from our first Mari Makom was who Rabbi Yossi was the child of. Says the Gemara halfway down, Hahi Rabbi Yossi bar Yehudahi. The first shita of Rabbi Yossi, where we saw that he held that tefillah is not bizmana mitzvah, that's the shita of Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda. The Tanya, as we learned in Maseches Nida, Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda Omer Daya l'tefillah shetehei be'achrona. This may be a memorable Gemara that we learned in Maseches Nida right before the new cycle began, almost 2 years ago. The Gemara there says, has a whole discussion, sometimes you may have to go to the mikvah 30 plus times, 90 plus times, and all the cheshbonos of the Gemara there. What was the sheet of Rabbi Yossi there? Don't worry, just do it at the end, just go to the mikvah at the end. What does that imply about his shita? That it's not tefillah bizmana mitzvah, because if tefillah bizmana was a mitzvah, you'd have to find exactly the right time. He's like, don't worry, just go at the end. So obviously, the shita Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda holds that tefillah bizmana is not a mitzvah. We paskin that way, halacha l'maisa, that tefillah bizmana is not a mitzvah. That's why a woman would not go to the mikvah on Yom Kippur. Of course, there's no tashmish because it's chamesh sinuyim. But even the mitzvah, we don't even paskin that way, so we would be lenient under those circumstances. And there are other psakim in the poskim that speak about this. If there are other scenarios that warrant not going to the mikvah on time, speak to your local Orthodox rabbi to ensure that you know exactly what you're doing. And the last 12 lines of this Masechta, I'm so excited to introduce David Merzel, who is the Mr. Consistent of Daf Yomi, 8:37 every night, 3 minutes early, shows up, finds a seat. And I know that he does have a job. I'm not joking, I don't know what he does for a living, but when I come in the morning, he's learning, or saying, learning Chumash, or Gemara, or davening, or something, or Tehillim, and then at night I see the same exact thing, and I don't know what happens in between. So it's a covered gadol to have David come finish the Masechta and as well to be Messiah. It's a little hard to see here. Oh boy.
Rishis Rabbi Robinson, Rabbi Twerski, Rishis Rabbi Schwed, thank you for joining us. And most of all, Rishus Maggid Shiur Rabbi Karesh, who should be the one up here being Messiah, but I'll quote a Mishnah in Perkei Avos as well. Elvis HaMalacha, Usnas HaRabbanis. Rabbi Karesh puts in incredible effort and time to give Shiur every day, but when it comes to the limelight, he goes and sits down and leaves it for somebody else. So we thank you very much for everything you do for us, day in, day out, week in, week out. Okay, Tana Rabbanan. Haro Rabbi Yom Kippurim Yord V'Tovel.
one who sees Keri on the night of Yom Kippur, he should be Yored V'Tovel, Ula Erev, and then in the evening, Yeshav Shef. He should go ahead and check himself for Chatzitza. So the Gemara asks, La Erev, Mai Hava, what's that going to help you? If you're going to check for Chatzitzas in the evening following Yom Kippur, you've already been Tovel, how does that help? Ela'ema miba erev yeshav shef. In advance, he should be mishav shef in case it will happen on Yom Kippur that he'll see a Keri, so he will be prepared for the Tefillah. Says the Gemara, Tani Tama Kamed de Reb Nachman, Haroa Keri b'Yom Kippur ma'avonosov mechulim lo. So we bring a maimer that anybody who sees Keri in Yom Kippur, all of his averos are mechulim to him that day. V'atanya, the Gemara asks from a Brisa, avonosav sidurin. The Brisa says that one who sees a Keri in Yom Kippur, his avonos are all set up, they're all placed in order, meaning he would be punished for them. Says the Gemara, my sidurin, what does it mean, sidurin? Sidurin limachel. They're sidurin to be forgiven. That's what sidurin means, there's no steer between the two. Tana de Rabbi Yishmael haro Keri b'Yom Kippurim yadayig kol hashana kula. One who sees Keri on Yom Kippur, he should be concerned all year long that perhaps he won't live out the year. Him also lo shana. However, if he does live out the year, muftach lo shehu ben olam haba. That is proof that he is a ben olam haba. Amar of Nachman bar Yitzchok, Teda, you should know, Shikola Olam Kulo Roiv. Why is he such an Olam Haba? Why are we so sure of this? Because the entire world has an Isser of an Inui V'hu, and he has a Keri that comes, and yet he lives out the entire year. Despite that, he must be on a very special Madrega. Kiyasa Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. Omar, he said, Mapishchaye sage umaski. There was a saying in Eretz Yisrael that mapishchaye it increases, chaye sage umaski more and more. Rashi says nesage umaski bebanim ubnei banim. He'll have many children from that, and that is a proof that anybody who lives out the year is a ben olam haba. Hadon alach yom kippurim v'slikala mesech yoma. Hadon alach mesech yoma v'hadra chalan. Daitan alach mesech yoma v'daita chalan. Nos nis neshem inach mesech yoma v'nos sis neshem inan. Lo ba'amadein v'lama da'asi. Hadon alach mesech yoma v'hadra chalan. Daitan alach mesech yoma v'daita chalan. Lo nis neshem inach mesech yoma v'nos sis neshem inan. Lo ba'amadein v'lo ba'ama da'asi. Hadon alach mesech yoma v'hadra chalan. Daitan alach mesech yoma v'daita chalan. No nis neshem inach mesech yoma v'lo nis neshem inan. Lo ba'amadein v'lo ba'ama da'asi. Yirasama fanach Eloheinu v'le'avosenu shetheit haraschu umenosenu ba'olam hazeh u'sei imanu l'olam haba. Chanina bar Papa, Rami bar Papa, Nachman bar Papa, Achai bar Papa, Abba Mori bar Papa, Rafram bar Papa, Rochish bar Papa, Surcha bar Papa, Ada bar Papa, Dara bar Papa. Harav na Adonai Eloheinu divrei sarascha b'finu b'fios hamcha Beis Yisrael v'niach anachnu Kulanu v'tzatzoynu v'tzatzoyamcha Beis Yisrael kulanu yodei shmach v'lamdei sarasacha lishma me'avaita chakmeni mitzvasacha gili olam hili bi samim b'chukecha l'man lo evosh l'olam lo eshkach b'kudecha kivam ki yisani baruch atah Adonai lamdeni chukecha amen 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 selavoed modi manach l'fanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'le'avosenu shesamta chalkeinu miyosh v'beis hamedrash v'lo samta chalkeinu miyosh v'kronos shanu mashkimim v'hem mashkimim anu mashkimim l'divrei Torah hem mashkimim l'dvarim betelim anu amelim v'hem amelim anu amelim v'makabim schar v'hem amelim v'einam makabim schar anu ratzim v'hem ratzim anu ratzim l'chai olam haba v'hem ratzim l'ver shachas shlemar v'atel lahim tardim l'ver shachas anshe damim u'mirma lo yekatsu yimei v'ani eftach bach Yiratzam Mafanacha Adonai Elohai Kshem Shaz Taning L'Sei Mesechta Yoma Kakta Azrein Lahasko Mesechtos Asfarim Acherum L'Saimam Leomod L'Lamid Lishmar V'Lastos L'Kaim Es Kol Divrei Samot Tarasecha B'Yava V'Schus Kol Atanaim V'Amoraim V'Tamidech Chachamim Yamad Li L'Zari Shlo Tomen Shatorim V'Piyim Pizari Ad Olam V'Skaim Bi Beis Halacha Chatancho Sach B'Shach V'Cha Tishmar Lacha V'Akitzosa Hisis Yichecha Ki Vi Yerbu Yamach V'Yosif L'Cha Shinos Chaim Orik Yami Miminu V'Smola Oshe V'Kavod Adonai Oz Le'amo Yutein Adonai Yivarekas Amova Shalom. Skadel v'yiskadei shmei rabba b'yamadu hu asid l'skadata l'chaya meisai l'asaka l'hon l'chayama l'mivna karta di Yerushalem l'shachla l'echla b'gava l'mebar puchana nuchra minara l'asava puchana di shma y'lasra v'yamlich Kutshabrichu Malchusei v'chay yechonu v'yom yechonu v'chay l'chol Beis Yisrael b'agalav yizman karivim ro amen. Yeshmer Rabba Mevarach V'Yolam Lomeo Maya Yisparach V'Yishtabach V'Yispar V'Yisramam V'Yisnaseh V'Yisadar V'Yisalev V'Yisalosh Shmedekut Shabarichu Leilamin Kabra Chasav V'Shirasa Tishpa Chasav V'Nechem Asa Damiran V'Yamavim Ruamein Al Yisrael Rabbanan V'Al Tamideon V'Al Kol Tamidei Samidehon V'Al Command the Askim V'Araisa Diva Asra Dein V'Diva Asar V'Asar Yehilahon L'Chon Shlomo Rabba China V'Chista V'Rachamin V'Chay Yerichim V'Zon Revichei U'Farkanamin Kadamavon V'Shmaya V'Aravim Ruamein Yesh Shlomo Rabba Min Shemaya V'Chaim Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Imru Amen Oseh Shalom V'Imramav V'Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Imru Amen.
Okay, a tremendous mazel tov to everybody. The feeling, the joy of completing this Masechta should accompany us, that we should continue on. I just want to wrap up with a beautiful video. I had opportunity to speak to Rabbi Frand and Rabbi Lapiansky and Rabbi Hauer, who discussed the power of Chumash. We learned the Daf every day, but they all told us that prior to the schedule of Daf Yomi, there was already a Shiur in Shulchan Aruch to learn Shnai Mikor v'Chatargum and the importance of learning Chumash. So please take a look at the screen and hear what they have to say. I had the privilege and opportunity to sit down with Rabbi Moshe Hauer, Rabbi Aaron Lapiansky, and Rabbi Yisachar Frand, each one of them well known for their Parsha Shiurim, and I asked them the following question: why do you think it's so important for people to be learning Chumash?
Every time you get some kind of item, or you have to find out how to work it, there's a manual. Where is the manual for human beings? You know, how do you live life? How do you raise children? How do you treat a wife? What makes people tick? The manual of the human being is the Torah. And and the Parsha Shavua, and the Meforshei HaChumash, thousands of years of commentary on the Chumash from people much wiser than us. And they know how to interpret it. And that's why learning of Chumash and the teaching of Chumash is so vital.
One of the tragedies and one of the milas of Chumash is we learn it at a very young age, which means we pretty much know it well. The tragedy is we have a 6-year-old understanding of it. And that's why it's the only quote-unquote Daf Yomi that Chazal or Mesakin was Kriyas HaTorah, to learn every week the Parsha and to learn it with Targum. This is what Chazal instituted. So it's not just to be Yotze, we need to relearn it as adults.
Long before Daf Yomi, there was a national learning program for people to cover the Torah. It's for people to learn the Torah and be connected to every part of the Torah every year. And that was Parsha Hashavua. We learned the Parsha. You learn the Parsha even with Rashi, and you have a handle on every part of the Torah, because as the Rambam teaches, the Torah Shebaal Peh is just a commentary on the Torah Shebachsav. So anchoring ourselves and learning the Parsha and having command of it, reviewing it every year, gives us a real handle in the totality of Torah.
Upon seeing the success that the All Daf app had among Daf Yomi learners and all Shas learners, I asked these Rabbanim what impact did they feel that the All Parsha app could have on Klal Yisrael.
What does it mean, I am Panim LaTorah? It's not 70 Pshetlach in Torah. It's 70 very, very different structures that all approach the same point from different ways and all come to a Torah conclusion. The fact that different Maggid Shiur are dedicated to different types of approaches, whether it's Maral, whether it's Meshech Chachma, whether it's a Chassidish approach. Each and every one it's a unit. It's not a likut, but rather an ability to see that each one is a complete world on its own, and as a world it complements the other worlds.
All Parsha is an incredible tool that we hope will support, strengthen people's ability to engage in learning the Parsha, much in the way of the All Daf app, which has facilitated the Daf Yomi learning and strengthened and given possibilities for review and insights and access to different Talmidei Chachamim and teachers. All Parsha has the ability to do that for men, for women, for children, for everybody who wants to learn.
People are listening to this and they're moved by it, and it's I think it's a tremendous chus for the OU to branch out into the All Parsha app. It doesn't take an hour of your day. Sometimes it takes a few minutes, and I'm surprised at how in the very few weeks how successful it's been.
Upon hearing the passion and excitement these Rabbanim have in sharing Chumash, our goal is to continue to grow both the All Daf and All Parsha platform to have easily accessible content for all segments of Klal Yisrael. Have a wonderful day. Okay, thank you again, everybody, for coming and tuning in. We'd like to give a special thank you to Larry of Deja Views here in Chicago for the wonderful AV and the live stream that he produced for us tonight. I want to end off with a bracha. Brisa we just learned in Masechtas Yoma, Daf Peivav. The Brisa says, "V'hafta es Hashem alekecha, sheyehei shem shamayim misayev al yadcha." Everyone should be zeicher that shem shamayim through learning daily Daf Yomi with all their tirchis and their tzrachim, that the shem shamayim should be misayev al yadcha, and we should be zeicher to mahabriyos oimres aleinu. Ashrei av v'shalom dei Torah, Ashrei Rabbi Karesh shalom dei Torah. And people should say, "Ru'u kama musukanim ma'aseinu, olav akasav omer v'yomer li avdi ata Yisrael asher b'cha espar." Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.